Well, hello. Good evening, good morning, wherever you are in this wonderful planet we call Earth. I'm your host, Southern Truth, and thank you for joining me. I had a wonderful conversation just recently. We just got off a live stream on another YouTube channel that I've been following in the true crime over in the great place called United States of America. I want to give a big shout out to Dolly and his partner PJ for allowing myself to be on there for a second time in a matter of months. And Dolly Vision is the channel that you guys can go and check out. He does great investigative work, boots on the ground, looking for missing person cases that has bit more of a foul play involved, and yeah, he's awesome conversation, and we were talking about some of the cases here in Australia, which involved with the 1973 child abduction of Joanne and Kirsty Gordon that happened in 1973, and also talking about the Beaumont children that happened in 1966, and amongst other um, cases that happen here, like the bodies in the barrels in Snowtown. And I love having conversations with other true crime people from around the world. First and foremost, if you haven't already subscribed, think about it. Don't think about it really. Just hit that subscribe button, hit that thumbs button, and share it amongst all your friends, family, your foes. If you've got enemies, yeah, send them over. We'll have them. Even send them to your dog if you like to share it with your dog. You never know. The dogs might actually like crime, solving crime. There's plenty of dogs out in the world that like to look for missing people, and that whether they do a good job or not, well, just give the dog a bone or give them some dog food. They will do anything for you. You'll be their best friend. I know. I have a family dog in the family. We have to give our warning out, just like the other cruise crime channels that's on YouTube. We have to do this for a reason. Like Southern Truth is for entertainment purposes only. We talk news, rumors, gossip, speculation. Yes, we do throw in some comedy. I like to have some comedy. Also, not everybody, but there are some people that will be mentioned are innocent to proven guilty, even though that these people are no longer alive. They are still innocent, even though they are alleged to do the crime. All opinions are just that. They're not facts, they're just opinions. And any opinions that do come in the chat room or in the comments section below after this video are entirely their opinions only and doesn't affiliate with any opinions that I have. And also, if you like rock and roll, metal, blues, and that, just crank it up, turn it loud, because the louder it is, the better it is. You should know. But anyway, let's get into the serious matter, and if we can do a bit of comedy, we may do some comedy. No, we will. We'll put some comedy into it just to break it up a little bit. So, Inspector Gadget down here in South Australia, well, it's not really Inspector Gadget, he's the police commissioner here in South Australia. He came out with the news bulletin. Well, main important, he done an interview in front of the press. And he's talking about these private investigators team who are privately funded. They're not funded by the government or the police are not involved. It's privately funded, right? How the private investigative teams are going to these old historical sites that ties in with significance with the cold case, especially with the Adelaide Oval abduction, and also what happened back in late February with the Beaumont children, that they private investigative teams are kind of putting on a burden of the family victims by giving them false hope. Because often and not, according to this Inspector Gadget Police Commissioner, if there is nothing found in relevance to the case, quote unquote, the bodies of the missing people or the missing children, you're putting a burden on the victim families. You're giving them false hope. Well, what this Inspector Gadget doesn't realise, this police commissioner here in South Australia, that one of the sisters is currently with the private investigating team up at Yatna on historic old farmland that used to owned by alleged paedophile and sexual abductor Stanley Arthur Hart. Now, why are the private investigative team up there, you may ask? Well, Stanley Hart's grandson, who's also is a convicted, he's in jail right now as I speak, a paedophile, he wrote a letter, and that was presented to investigative team, and he drew out some markings like a map to do with his grandfather's property and another site up at a reservoir at Pekina where there's a tunnel. Now, the South Australian Police had indeed looked at this letter, but they haven't been at the site where the tunnels are because they believe that the grandson letter was a fantasy. Well, the old saying goes in society, you have to dream big if you want to make it out there in the world. Remember the Monkees back in the 60s? They're a good band. When I saw her face, well, I'm a believer. Yeah, you have to believe. That the case of the Adelaide abduction or the Beaumont children, any other cold cases around the world, you have, if you have deep conviction within yourself, take away the conspiracy theory, take away all the razzmatazz that leads you down rabbit holes and byways, sideways, and each and every way. If you have deep conviction within yourself, what harm does it take to believe in your conviction that this is the pathway that leads to a form of closure, not a burden on the family victims, not giving anybody a false hope, but try to bring closure. Now remember, we have to say this too. This Inspector Gadget Police Commissioner down here in South Australia, he must have it in his mind, this is my opinion, that these private investigative teams want to find the bodies. Well, that's not the case. In both of the situations when it comes to the Beaumont children and the abduction of the Adelaide Oval up at Yatna and Pekina, right? They're the sites up there, not, right? Both of the private investigative teams, now they're separate, right? They're two different groups. They both said, we don't believe that the bodies are at this place, but it brings closure. When one door shuts, another door opens. What they did find down at Adelaide in regards to the Beaumont children was it's an old factory site which has been levelled and been flattened to be redeveloped for housing. The private investigation and the excavation that happened down there, and I was down there for the week filming it and documenting, they did find some historical things, like bones, which predominantly animal bones. They found glass bottles. They found a receipt that was inside an envelope that was dated back to 1966, that was buried about 12 feet down under the soil. They found a receipt that was dated back in 1966, still intact, inside an orange envelope. Up at Yatna, when it comes to the Adelaide Oval abduction, they have found bones, which hasn't been determined yet whether some of them are indeed animal or human. Some of these bones have been taken for forensic testing. There has been other bones that have been discovered out there at Yatna, which has been determined to be indeed animal bones, but there's some, not all, there's some, like a small proportion of bones, that need to be tested to rule one way or another whether they're human or animal. There has been other items found, like glass bottles. Now, there were two glass bottles that was intact. There was another one that was smashed up, but there were two bottles that I saw in this photo look identical to the bottles that they pulled up down here at Cast Adelaide for the Beaumont children excavation. They're identical to one another. And I asked the team, are these bottles common? Because the Beaumont children disappeared in 66. The Adelaide Oval abduction happened in 73. Two separate locations. They'd done a dig and they found these glass bottles. And now these glass bottles look like massive aftershave bottles. But they look identical to one another. I just simply asked, are these bottles common back then? Still waiting for an answer. Right? It's been busy. The other side up at the reservoir where the tunnel is, the police hasn't even been on that site. They believe that the tunnel was fantasies. That was put on a map that Stanley Hart's grandson drew, and it was pushed aside. This private investigative team did indeed found the tunnel. They also, back in 2009, they did find some barrels, which has been tested. And it just recently came back a second time as positive. Now, this is due to one of the leaders of this private investigative team up at Yatna. In his own opinion, not mine, this is his words, and I'm paraphrasing here. He believes that the bodies of the abduction of the Adelaide Oval were mixing together with the barrel, because the barrel has came back as a positive for hemoglobin. There's a red blood cell tissue matter. It has indeed come back positive for a second time. They have decided now not to send the barrel to the South Australian Police, but to a forensic university to do further investigations in regard to the barrels. The grandson of Stanley Hart had done some conflicting testimonies, because we're going to play you a recording that he was talking about to another private investigator, saying that he never mentioned about the barrels. Right? And this is Stanley Hart grandson, Mark Trevor Marshall. Mark Trevor Marshall is in prison right now for sexual abuse. Right? He is convicted. His grandfather is no longer alive. We are going to play you this short recording from a jail call to this private investigator, right, talking about these barrels. In his words, he never mentioned about the barrels. Just give us a brief second here. We'll just give it right here. Huh? And you can make up your own mind, but this is from Mark Trevor Marshall. All right? Mark, all right. So let's share this. And please share, subscribe, do whatever. All right. All right, we'll be right. All right, let's just play this. All right. This is Mark Trevor Marshall talking about these barrels.
This stuff that Mostyn's sending us, something about some maps of where the barrels were supposed to have been or something that you've apparently done prior to it. What? Apparently that you've drawn some maps, and apparently they're about the barrels where.
Barrels? I've never ever spoke about barrels.
Okay,
I've never ever mentioned barrels in my life.
Okay, well, all right. Well, we want to just clarify because they've got some information about that apparently in this inquiry back in the day, there was apparently that you had written about some maps where the barrels would be found. So that's not correct.
I've never spoke about barrels in my life. What are you talking about barrels for? That's a whole different case to do with different people.
Oh, okay. So this is about other people. Yeah. So there you have.
I don't know what you're talking about, so I can't comment.
Oh.
So he can't comment. All right. I'll come back to you. So that's Mark Trevor Marshall. Now he has drew out this map of the farmhouse that his grandfather used to own up at Yatna, and he also supposedly drew a map of Bikini with these barrels. And he's saying he's never mentioned about the barrels. Well, how did these barrels come into play with the Adelaide Oval abduction? Well, let's show you a photo of the barrels that they have found back in 2000 and give or take 9 to 11, something like that. Right? They have indeed find some barrels, right? We'll show you this, right? This is the place up at Yatna. This is the farmhouse up there that Stanley Hart, who is alleged to have taken the Adelaide Oval children. All right. Then we'll go here. All right. We'll blow this up. This is the shed on the property that Stanley Arthur Hart used to have. This is the shed. All right. They've done some digging in the shed. Yeah. And they've done some excavation to put some. Right. There's an excavator there, a little small one. This is another place on the property that they found another dig hole. This place here, this is up at Bikini, up at the reservoir. There's a tunnel there. The police said the tunnels were all a fantasy. The South Australian police has never been to this location. They have never investigated it. They have not done any type of work there, the South Australian police. But, according to them, the South Australian police, it's a fantasy. Well, not much of a fantasy anymore, is it? Because I saw the tunnel. And I'm a believer. And I saw her smile out of my mind. That's the freaking tunnel. There's the team that's digging. They're having a bit of a break. And there's the barrels. There's the barrel that got tested positive for a second time about a week and a half ago. The hemoglobin, which is a form of red blood tissue matter. So if the grandson talking about, never mentioned about the barrels and whatnot, never mention them. According to his words, not mine, in that recording, then what does this have to do with the abduction of the Adelaide Oval children, Joanne Ratcliffe and Kirsty Marshall? Because the private investigative team found these barrels. Let's go back to you. Wonderful people. The private investigative team found those barrels. So my question goes back to the beginning of this show. Who's putting the burden on the families? Just because Inspector Gadget Police Commissioner in South Australia say they private investigative teams are putting a burden on the family victims, how are they putting a burden? They're actually doing more of a job than what the police are. Now, let's not jump into conclusion. Some people have, but let us here not jump into conclusion. Not everything is a conspiracy theory. Not everything is indeed set in stone. However, do the police want this case to be solved? Now let's be realistic here. Whether you think that the police are corrupt or not, whether you think that the police are trying to cover up or not, let's be realistic here. Do you truly think that the police want or do not want this case to be solved? Now remember, the private investigative team are not looking for human bones. They're not looking for a body. The same as the Beaumont children disappearance. They weren't looking for the bodies. They were looking for evidence that surrounds the case. They're trying to base on evidence. But the South Australian Police Commissioner, he thinks that these type of... Hey Christy, I saw you in the Dolly's chat. How you going? Yes, we're talking about... If the police wanted the case to be solved, they would have already solved it. You're on the money. You're on the money. I'm not saying that every single police officer is corrupt. However, is there corruption inside the police force? Of course there is. But I'm not the one that with the brush that tarring every single police officer with the same brush. Because there has been new detectives on the scene, there's been old ones removed and blah, 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 blah. But what does the barrels have to do with the disappearance of the Adelaide Oval abduction? It comes from the letter that the grandson wrote. Now he is backpedaling and said he's never mentioned about the barrels. Well, which one is it, mate? You drew a map. And he had drew a map. You know, he has indeed drawn a map. And he had marked it and labeled on the map where this place is and where you can find this and blah, blah, blah. But according to that recording, he never mentioned about the barrels. Well, how come they discovered the barrels? And also, how come it's been tested positive for a second time of red tissue matter? Whether that is animal or human, further testing's got to be done. But the lead private investigator, he believed that the two bodies that disappeared were indeed put inside those barrels. Where are they then? They're not there. It's like the hole that they dug back in 1966 for the Beaumont children, the three missing Beaumont children. They indeed found the hole in the last excavation. How do I know, Southern Truth? Because I was down there. I also know two of the guys that were working on the case, and we are trying to get them on the show. I'll have their private number. But anyway, the archaeologist down there, the forensic archaeologist down at Carcello, said this on the last day down there in front of the press conference. They found the hole, and his own opinion, he believes a short time later in the 70s to early 80s, what was ever inside that hole that the boy dug 3 days later after the disappearance, what was ever inside that hole got removed. And then the hole got recovered again. That's because everything down there had been lifted up an extra 2 feet, approximately 2 to 3 feet, because the owner of the factory, who was also the alleged abductor, got some top fill from the northern suburbs of Adelaide and transported it down to raise the ground level higher. But according to the forensic archaeologist that was down there in the last excavation, they found the hole, but whatever was put inside the hole was removed. Is this the same situation that we're looking at the 1973 Adelaide Oval abduction? Possibly. Whatever was inside the barrel obviously got removed. But if the police really wanted this to be solved, wouldn't they want help from the general public? Hey, there's still a reward for $1 million to solve the case. Oh. Any information, call Crime Stoppers for 1-800-333-000. You can remain anonymously if you shall wish. But I've also heard people that've been banned and blocked from Crime Stoppers from giving information that they may indeed have. I'm not making this up. How can you be banned and blocked for calling Crime Stoppers if you have information? Oh, that's right. You think that Crime Stoppers or the police think that this person is calling as a form of harassment and they won't shut up. So the only way that they can shut them up is to ban them. Is that solving anything? Seriously, is that really indeed solving anything? No. It is a strange, cruel world that we live in. However, people can say that we have to adapt to it, or some people like myself say, no, we live the life that we've always lived. If we are not harming anybody, if we are not breaking the law, if we are not doing anything wrong, why should we have to change so we can fit into society? We're all, in a realistic world, we all want to get along. Yeah? In society. We all want to get along. That's the way it should be. But not everybody is on the same team, so to speak. So therefore, do we have to adapt to fit in society? Or do we continue to live the way that we've always lived without any problems, without any type of situations that may come our way? Like, we all face situations. It's about how you deal with the situation at hand. But shouldn't, because it is a double-edged sword. It is a double-edged sword. If there are private investigative teams out there to get clout or to get clickbait or revenue or whatnot, and that they're doing it for the wrong, and if they are indeed doing the wrong, yeah, they need to be called out on. But predominantly, there are people out there that are doing the right thing. They want to bring closure. Try to bring some answers to some of the questions. Not every question is going to have an answer. Not every person is going to be found. Unfortunately. That's the reality of it all. But I have the constant battle with some people that support a group here in South Australia, right, that they just want to tar everything with the same brush, that everything is a conspiracy theory. Are there sex crimes here in? Of course there is. Yes, there is. There is. There's sex crimes. Are there child trafficking? Yes. But how serious it is? How serious is it? Depends where you look. You can go down several rabbit holes, and it will take you on a journey on its own. The Department of Children's Services, they're in shambles. There have been many, many broken families that's been destroyed. And it's no secret, there has definitely been many, many families that have been destroyed with the Department of Children's Services here. Now, is that to do with alcohol? Is that to do with substance abuse? Who knows? But you can just imagine the list of abusive children when it's from a broken family, or whether they've been adopted or foster cared out, being children of ward estate. Yeah, it's a horrific story out there, and it has been documented. But how much of that been covered up? You be the judge. Do you really think that the police are going to lift the eye? Well, in some people's mind, they haven't done anything. There's a suppression order for 80 years to protect their own, to protect those people that were mentioned in the Mulligan inquiry as a PDF file. But it all depends what road and what path you want to lead. In my way of doing things, I want evidence to back up a theory or a lead or whatnot. And there's been plenty of photos. There's been plenty of people that's been out there. And in both of the cases of the Beaumont children and the missing children of the Adelaide Oval abduction, there's been photos, there's been document video footage. But what right does the South Australian Police got to say that is putting a burden on the victim's family, when one of the sisters of the missing person is indeed involved with the freaking private investigative team? It brings closure, not a burden, in my opinion. So, Mr. Grant Stephen, in all honesty and in all politeness, I think that statement that you made in front of the general public, in front of the press on Friday, leaves a bit of a sour taste to certain people who indeed have their children missing or their siblings missing, and yet they're indeed involved with the searching. Not to try to find the bodies per se, but try to find evidence surrounding the theories that they were given. And like you, Mr. Grant Stevens, Inspector Gadget Police Commissioner, you indeed stated that these private investigative teams are doing these research and privately funded digs all based on theory. Let's put the shoe on the other foot, shall we? Our police officers are trying to solve crime by all the calls that they've been given or all the interviews that they've been given. Is it based on theory from the beginning until you start to spread it out and let the dust settle? Is the case when a police officer rock up to the scene for the very first time, are they basing their opinions on theory, what they think, without even talking to any of the eyewitnesses firsthand, or just rocking up to the scene before taking any fingerprints or DNA testing or any of that type of just when you rock up and you see it for your first time and you soak it all in? Are they basing their things on theory from the beginning? Because don't crime get solved on theories sometimes? And after the theory, indeed do come facts. Facts comes along as time progresses. But you have to lead with the foot one step forward is to move forward, isn't it? Every movement begins with one step forward. Unless you like to walk backwards, it's still a movement. But why would you want to walk backwards for? You're not falling in a hole. You're not looking where you're going. But isn't it based on theory from the very beginning, and then as time progresses, it comes facts? Like, we're not all going to get the answer straight away, but we may never get the answer straight away. We don't know what a person's mind goes through to perform an act of crime. I have a theory. It's bloody insane for a person that wants to harm a freaking child. It's insane. It's not inhumane. You might fall in a hole and become missing for 40 plus years, or even longer. Even longer, indeed. Indeed. It's like the Sebastian Rogers. He was only 15 years. He's now 16 now. But still, people have theories on that. However, as the months have progressed, we're starting to separate from this theory and have a little bit of facts. And yet, we still don't have any fucking facts, really. Any proof whatsoever. The only proof that we have in the Sebastian Rogers case is indeed he is missing. How did he become missing? Fuck knows. We have theories, we have speculation, but how did he become missing? Fuck knows. There's been a lot of blame gaming, I know that. Christy, hello Christy. Thanks for joining us once again. There's only one theory in that case, and that makes any sense. The mother. Indeed. The mother was the last person to be in sight of him and also to be in the same household as the time his son went missing. But when it comes back to Adelaide Oval, Abduction, and we'll go one before that, the Beaumont children, with the Adelaide Oval is different than the Beaumont children. The Adelaide Oval was at a local football game between Norwood and North Adelaide. The children went down to the ladies' bathroom, the ladies' toilet. The family was still in the grandstand, but Joanne, who was the eldest, took her friend Kirsty down to the female toilets, and on their way down, they disappeared, never to be seen since. 1966, the three young Beaumont children went down to Glenelg Beach on a stinking hot day on January 26, 1966. Now you got to remind yourself, back in those days, there was no such thing as stranger danger. Everything was changed. You had to leave your front door unlocked, you can leave your window unlocked, you can leave your car unlocked. Until that street light turns on, you better get your ass inside. Or, in some cases, when the sun goes down, you get your ass inside. Right? You've got to be inside. But it was a different thing. But the mother was still at home. She was a housewife. And the father, he was on a business appointment 3 hours north of Adelaide. He wasn't home. But the children were told to be home before the father got home. And that was roughly around about 2 p.m. The father was supposed to be home about 3 p.m. Right? But I have heard people blame the mother for not being with the children on the day of the disappearance. I get it. I've also heard speculations and theories and rumours that the family had something to do with the disappearance of the Beaumont children. That's not true whatsoever. That's a whole bullshit story in that regard. And I will be one of the first people to say that. I'm not the first, but I'll be one of many people who do not put the blame on the parents. Now, I understand, the mother should have been down there, blah, blah, the children would have never been taken. Well, how do you know that? 2 children were with their families at Adelaide Oval 7 years after the disappearance of the Beaumont children at Adelaide Oval. They were with their families at the football game. And they went down to the ladies' toilet. And yet, a sicko, let's call it for what it is, a sicko, took the 2 young children away from the family and to never be seen again. Never be seen again. Is that the family fault? I know it's a loaded question. I understand. But in hindsight, 2020, you would think after the disappearance of the Beaumont children 7 years prior, the case was still fresh in people's minds, and then the 2 children from Adelaide Oval disappeared. You would think there would have been some more security involved with children. That if you out of sight, if you can't see your children, you have to put yourself in sight of the children, so to speak. Keep your eyes peeled on your children at all times. That means should one of the parents led the children down to the toilet, like the mother or whatnot? That's a good question. But besides the point, we can think a bit more of a logical way now than when an act actually happened. I know for personal thing, right? I have done some things in the past, not crime related. I haven't done that, but I've done some stupid things in the past where I'm not really thinking all that straight. Everything was like a complete freight train, and then when I took time to look back at it and said, "Fuck, I should have done this. I should have done that better. I should have done this." We all learn. And that's what probably would have happened with the children, with the parents. I know indeed with the Beaumont children and the Adelaide Oval, they were regretting themselves for not being around the children at the time when they disappeared. Because if they were, the children would never have been taken. However, when it comes to Sebastian Rogers in America, you don't hear the mother or the stepfather saying, "Fuck, I wish I would have done this better. I wish I would have done that better." Because the stepmother, well, the mother, not the stepfather, but the mother was there. She was the last person to see him to supposedly go to bed at night. You don't see she regrets that. I should have done this, I should have done that. But not every case is the same. It's not. It's fucking different. And the thing is, it's just people will try to put conspiracies there. People just jump to the conclusion straight off the get go. They'll get to the end of it and not really try to work through it step by step. It's a process type of thing. I'll come to this conclusion. I need to look at everything first before I even fucking make my mind up. Until then, I don't say everything because new stuff keeps coming out and keep coming out. And some, like the Beaumont children, some new stuff are even coming out today. And it's been that fucking long ago that nobody has seen. We're getting new information as I speak right now. The same with the Adelaide Oval abduction that happened in 1973. We're getting new information coming out now. Not back then, now. And if we go to Sebastian Rogers, how long down the line would there be new information? It could be 10, 15, 20, 30 years. And let's say this, I hope and God forbid that it's not the case, but it doesn't look promising at the moment. I know it's only been over a year in that case, but can you imagine in 5, 10, 15 years' time of what information that will be brought out then compared to the information that we have got now? I don't want to look that far ahead. I seriously don't. But I can just imagine what information that may come out. Now, while I was in, let's just say, while I was in Dolly Vision's panel, there was a comment in the chat, and they want my opinion on the Madeleine McCann disappearance. Here's my opinion. I believe that she was trafficked. However, the guy that they've got going to court at the moment, or they think that that's the guy that did it, I don't believe that's him. I believe it's got to do with the family. I believe either the mother and the father has got something to do with this. Now, there has been some speculation and rumours that when an eyewitness did a sketch, Some people thought that one of the sketches looked like John Podesta. I'm not saying it was. I'm not saying it is. But I, in a nutshell, believe that she was trafficked. Where to? Your guess is better than mine. It could be anywhere in this world at the moment. I believe that she was trafficked. Now, here's another thing too that I have a problem with some cases, especially here in Australia and some overseas, but predominantly here in Australia. Some people go to jail for life here in Australia when they haven't found a body. The old saying goes, no body, no crime. And predominantly, most people get sentenced to life imprisonment due to circumstantial evidence. Circumstantial evidence. Body haven't been found. And we're talking about like the Peter Balconio disappearance / murder. I truly believe the girlfriend, Joanne, or Joanna, or whatever her name is, had something indeed to do with the disappearance of Peter Balconio. I believe she indeed got something to do with it. However, and that's just my opinion, so for those Joanne family that may or may not listen and trying to sue me, it's only my opinion. It's not defamation. I have no proof in the matter. It's just my opinion. However, the guy that's serving life in prison in regard to that, he's got no long to live because he's got some form of cancer. That just recently came out. And so I just have to put some light on the subject. It's getting a bit dark here. But yeah, I believe Joanne's got something to do with it. Right? When it comes to Joe Bonet, Ramsey, well, there's been documentaries about that, and I'm kind of leading down the pathway that the brothers got involved in that. However, I believe the family, especially the mother, who want to groom her child, Joanne Ramsey. Remember all those beauty pageants that she was doing? Like it's a form of grooming. We were talking about the music business on Dolly Vision before, about how Justin Bieber wanted to be a rock star, but look what happened. They completely fucked him up. Yes, he has his own got his own pathway to lead. You know, his own actions. He's got to be responsible for his own actions. But I was mentioning the Dolly. You should watch the MTV Music Awards when Pink was completely off her face. Whether both alcohol abuse or drug abuse or combination of both, trying to go all over him. And this is how it's all in the music business manufactured. Look what they've done to the Pussycat dolls. Look what they've done to Fergie from Black Eyed Peas. Look what they've done to that lady from Aqua. I'm a Barbie girl. Fuck that shit. Look what they've done to NSYNC. Justin Timberlake. Look what they've done to Britney Spears. Look what that did to a lot of people. Remember the old 27 Club? Not a conspiracy. It's a form of manufactured. Like when it comes to the Pussycat Dolls and the Spice Girls, looks like they picked them out of a fucking Wheatie packet and line them all up and say, right, you have to dress this way, you have to act that way, and if you don't, Why do you think bands and that are starting to re-record their own music? Because when they recorded and released it about 30, 40 years ago, they don't own it. Here's a check, here's a fucking contract, sign away, but you don't own the music. Now you've seen bands re-recording their music so they can have the rights to their music. Before Meatloaf died, I've actually had a word with Meatloaf privately. Meatloaf was bankrupt. He was saying to me privately, Bat Out of Hell, Dead Ringer for Love, and Bat Out of Hell 2, he owned no money. Yes, it was the top selling album, Bat Out of Hell 1, and indeed Bat Out of Hell 2. But he never really made any money. Who made the money? The record company. He didn't own the rights to his music, even though he co-written the songs with Jim Steinman. And well, predominantly all the songs were written by Jim Steinman, but you get my point. Meatloaf was trying to re-record the music before he passed away and trying to get the licensing back under his control before he died. He didn't get to do that. Quick, they say, like K-pop. I don't listen to K-pop, but I know a lot about. There's a metal band from Asia called Baby Metal. They are manufactured. They are trying to groom them. They are young women, if not teenagers. They look young. Have you ever heard of Baby Metal? Yeah, they do a lot of good music. But they're being groomed. Man, they were saying to Dolly, I'm a Messy Kiss fan. Detroit Rock City! But look what they were doing. It's manufactured. You had the costumes, you had the personas, you had the way they project themselves. But when they, after the reunion tour and the farewell tour of 2000, 2001, and then they replaced Peter Criss and Ace Frehley after that and put Eric Singer and Tommy Thayer. And then Gene Simmons done that Family Jewels and he got married. When he got married, that's when Gene Simmons lost his balls, in my opinion. And then you had the Hello Kitty stuff come out with Kiss makeup on and blah, blah, blah. Actually, matter of fact, I've got a Hello Kitty Kiss up doll up there with Kiss makeup. They control everything they do, the way they dress, eat, talk, every aspect of life, down to when, even when they do a shit next as well. Exactly. And I hate to be them while COVID, they would have fucking. No wonder they ran out of toilet paper during COVID. We'll leave that subject alone. I mean, on the other channels I had, yeah, I was talking about it here in Australia. We got hit hard, and we're still paying for it, even though we're 3 years after the COVID situation. But here in Australia, we got hit hard with the measures that the police put on us and everything else. I mean, I remember, I'll just say one story and one story only. And this is not conspiracy theory. This is indeed actually happened. So over in Western Australia, where my mother lives, she was saying that they had these militarized checkpoints in the county region. So if you want to go from one county district to another county district, you have to go through a militarized checkpoint. Now, we also had checkpoints across the border of the state, but imagine having a checkpoint, militarized checkpoint at each county. So if you want to go from one county to the next county, you have to go for a checkpoint. And in some cases, most people work in a different county area than they actually live in. Some people weren't even allowed to leave their freaking county to go to work. That's how bad it got here. That's not a conspiracy theory. And yet, back in those days, YouTube was taking that down. That's misinformation. And I was saying to YouTube, how do you know that's misinformation? You're not even fucking living here in Australia. It's all over the fucking news and everything. And yet I was putting up news articles and that. Nope. Ban. It wasn't false misinformation. They just didn't want the narrative to get out there for the world to see how bad it really was here in Australia. But anyway, we're talking true crime. And this is where I like the family of the true crime. Yes, there are some bad fucking people that do true crime. All base their theories on conspiracy theories without showing any relevance of factual proof. And they want to be brought up on the drama side. Yeah, drama can be good sometimes, but 95% of the time, forget about it. Once you get your feet wet, you want to get out of that pool as quick as you jump in. And this is where I start to see a bit of a divide in the true crime. I mean, you do have your groups. I mean, with the Beaumont children and that, and there's groups. With the Adelaide Oval Abduction, there's groups. With any case, really, there's groups. And it all depends who do you want to believe. And if you do come in with another form of opinion, you may have to tread lightly in some of these groups because they will indeed delete you, block you, kick you out of the group, so to speak. That's why I don't participate in any of the groups anymore. I mean, I chat among other true crimers because you get information. But to be in groups, nah. That's where the problem lies. And I truly believe in some groups, there are too many chiefs, not enough Indians. And it's driven by ego. Some groups are driven by jealousy because they say somebody being popular in what they do and they're getting exposure in what they do. And there's some groups decide amongst themselves they want to be just like that person or even better. And they try to do which way in every way they can, try to outdo that person. I think that's a wrong type of attitude. I truly believe iron sharpens iron. We can feed off one another. However, we shouldn't be able to put that person down just because our ego system thinks that we know better and we should do better than that person. But hey, we're not all the same. If people want to do that, knock themselves out. But you're not going to earn the heavyweight title by doing that type of stuff. You're not going to earn the heavyweight title by having that form of attitude. Because you would just fall just as fast as you started to rise. And my hat goes off to Dolly. I'll give him support. Yeah, I watched JLR too. He came back from his dark side of the moon. Yeah, Pink Floyd. But hey, we all have some form of dark past in our life. We all have a journey. We all got a story to share. G'day, Van. Long time no see. And the good thing about this thing is that we can all try to get along. I mean, there's another group I don't want to mention. They've got nothing to do with true crime. but they're just idiots. They really are idiots. They are based on conspiracy theory and drama. It's like they've watched Days of Our Lives with a remote control, but instead of just pressing play, they press rewind every 5 seconds. And they try to narrow every fucking thing that you say. Everything. And if you don't own up what you said, they debunk. But anyway. Well, anyway, guys, I've got to get off here. It's getting dark. I've got to turn the light. I've got to have something to eat as well. But if you haven't already please smash the thumb, share amongst yourself and other people. Dolly says don't share it on Pornhub. Well, I'm not into that anyway, but I don't want to copy him. But I'll say this: don't share it on Pornhub. Okay, just don't do it. Yeah. And see, my partner just said, "Yeah, dinner time, and the potato bake is in the oven. Just don't burn the house down." People say, "Why don't I cooking?" I'm in this room. I'm in the office. She's doing the cooking tonight. Just don't burn the house down. No, Shay's a good cook. If you don't know, that's my partner, Sharaya Brown. All right, that's my partner, and she's a good cook. But anyway, I haven't burned the house down yet. See, now she's saying yet. If the house gets burnt down, you have evidence, ladies and gentlemen, that she had burnt the house down. She said, "I haven't burnt the house down yet." And you can cook, but you know I love to cook. Yes, I know that. No, she won't burn the house down. She won't burn the house down. Hey, and just before we go, at least we can get a meal here, not like tea ref, when I'm still waiting for a freaking delivery. Been waiting a while. It might be stale. It might be soggy in that container ship that's sent over from America. But anyways, who knows? Who knows where it might be? It might have gone to Ethiopia by now. Who knows? That's not being racist. When was the last time I burnt dinner? That's a good question. Never. Oh, wait there, you did once. You did once. You left it. We walked away from the oven. You left it on once. So that was a long time ago. Not like my sister. She actually burnt water. How did she do that? I have no idea. But anyway, like, share, subscribe, comment underneath. We will cover more of this. We've got other cases that I want to talk about as well. That I've got in my thing. It is getting dark out here. Can you turn the light? Oh, there you go. Put
It
a
was
light.
a pizza I burnt a couple of years ago.
Huh?
It was a pizza.
Yeah, you burnt a pizza 3 years ago. There you go. Not like my sister who burnt water. I don't know how long ago that was, but yeah, she burnt
She did
water.
that last time she tried cooking, too.
Yeah. But anyway, that's the producer, and she's wonderful. She's wonderful, But yeah, so anyway, I've got to love you and leave you guys for now to give you guys a bit of a thing. There will be some more of this coming. We're going to get back onto the Beaumont children. I've got a couple of phone calls to make to get the people on board who are doing the case to give us an update. Also, we'll talk more about the Adelaide Oval stuff and other cases. We'll talk about all this dark cover-ups that we've got here in South Australia and that. And it's going to be an education thing because as much as I look at crime from overseas, I want to try and give back to people that live in America, to understand, to give them a bit of awareness of what's going on here. And yeah, not say I know everything, but I'll give it out. So Take care, and each and every one of you will be back here in the very, very near future. Maybe tomorrow, maybe Wednesday, maybe. I know I've got gym on Wednesday, but I'll probably be back tomorrow. But anyway, enjoy your Monday if you're just waking up over it in America and Northern Hemisphere. Here in Australia, we're coming to an end of Monday. It's coming up to almost 6:20 p.m. dinner time. I've got to get some food in my stomach. All right, guys. Love you, leave you, and peace.